from the Reykjavik project, like which is the center stage of investments in Balochistan at the moment. And it has if we go back, the history of this project start from 1990s, and then in 2011 there was a company called TCC, Titan Copper Company, and that applied for the license, exploration license, and the government denied it. And then there was a court case, and which ended up in International Court for Settlement of Investment Disputes, and Pakistan had to face a penalty of around $7 billion. And then in 2022, then there was out of court settlement, and then Barrick came over and took over this project, who are running it now. So at the moment, this the Barrick mining company, which is a Canadian company, owns 50% of this project, and federal government owns 25, and Balochistan government owns the remaining 25 of the project. So the first phase of the project, which is currently underway, and in this project, the project is under the exploration stage, and from 2028 the mining will start. And so to finance the costs of the first phase, Barrick and government of Pakistan required around $6 billion to finance this. So Barrick is a large company, but the way they operate it, they don't put their own resources, but they just get loans from banks and from multilateral organizations to finance their operations. Initially, the government of Pakistan tried to pull in Saudis to fund the project, or to buy 50% stake in the project. And there was a Saudi company called Manara Minerals, and they came, and a very high level Saudi delegation came to Pakistan, and they said that we are going to invest in this project. And in December last year, in December 2024, the Pakistan's cabinet even approved a sale of 15% shares to Manara at the cost of $540 million. But then the Manara Minerals backed out for reasons which are not explained. So they backed out, they refused to invest in the project. So after that, with the collaboration of government of Pakistan, Reykjavik, the Barrick Mining tried to pitch this project to funding to the international investors, to the donors and banks, and they managed to secure pledges of $6 billion for this phase. So the organizations which have pledged money include World Bank, Asian Development Bank, Export-Import Bank of United States, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, Export Development Canada, and all of these have collectively pledged more than $6 billion. But it needs to be understood that these are just pledges. So like I talked to the ADB people for a story, and they say that we have pledged amount, but we will carry out a due diligence before finally agreeing to this loan amount. So that's one thing which needs to be taken into the account. And then there is it was also very much in the news that there is a Japanese company called Komatsu Mining Equipment Company. So that company has signed a deal to provide mining equipment to the Reykjavik, and it is like $440 million deal that has been signed. So they are not like investing in the project, they don't have any stake, but they are working with Reykjavik as a vendor. So that's like the involvement of Japanese. There was also another news item which appeared in media maybe like a couple of weeks back, that Japan is also investing in Reykjavik. But so far there is no clarity on this. I think I also tried to find out, but so far there is no clarity. Apart from this involvement of this Komatsu mining company, there is no further involvement of Japan. And also like there is this Japanese Bank for International Cooperation. They have also pledged to invest somewhere around $100 million, but that's also a pledge that can change. They might not invest at all. So these are the facts that we need to take into the account. And initially the cost of Reykjavik was 6.6 billion, but again it was revised to 7.7 billion. It was revised upwards, and one of the major contributing factor was that Pakistan decided to connect Reykjavik to the existing railway structure, so that the finished product can be transported through railways from Reykjavik all the way to the Port Qasim in Karachi. So that would require another $400 million. So that raised the cost substantially. But again, this $400 million, in my opinion, I think this amount is too little to cover the entire territory, because it's the length of the railway line all the way from Reykjavik to Quetta, and then to Rodi, and then to Karachi. Like that's too much. Even if like from Karachi to Rodi is covered by ML1, still the railway line needs to be upgraded from Nokundi all the way to the Rodi, because currently it's in a very poor shape, and it's not in a position to transport goods at a mass level or higher level. Now, there have also been a couple of other developments relating to US. One is the Frontier Works Organization signed an MOU with US Strategic Minerals, and the US Strategic Minerals, as like they have also pledged to invest $500 million in exploring minerals, mainly in Balochistan. And National Logistic Corporation (NLC) has also signed an MOU with Mota Engel Group, which is a Portuguese company, but it also has a significant presence in America. So it also has American linkage. So these are like two MOUs that American companies have signed to potentially invest in exploration of minerals in Pakistan, in Balochistan, to be particular. And now, if we go to ML1, ML1 is the largest project of CPEC in terms of value, and it has failed to kick off for last 10 years due to funding issues. And back in 2017, there was an offer from Asian Development Bank that we will partially fund this project. We will provide $2 billion. But at that time, the government of China said no, we will be the sole financier. So that offer was declined at that time. But now even China is encouraging Pakistan that we cannot solely fund this project. So you should find alternative or third-party funders. And that's why again Pakistan has accepted that same offer from ADB, and now ADB is investing, or like they're lending $2 billion for this project, but that's also pending due diligence. So ADB engineers were there, they inspected the railway line from Karachi to Rodi, and they will do further due diligence. But in principle, they have agreed that they will partially fund this main line 1 project, and that also tells us that China is no longer like interested, or it no longer feels secure to invest in major infrastructure projects, mainly because of the experience that it faced in energy projects, where it's still there is like more than 300 billion rupees that Pakistan owes to Chinese companies. And recently, the government of Pakistan restructured 1.2 trillion rupees of circular debt, and that included two parts. One was the principal payments and the interest, and there was also late payment surcharge. So what Pakistan did, it negotiated with the power producers that please just waive off the late payment surcharge, and most of them did, except from Chinese power producers. They have not waived off their late payment surcharge, and still Pakistan is in the hopes that they will get a waiver, but still. So because of all these experiences, Chinese, they do not feel secure, or like they don't feel easy to invest more in Pakistan, because they already think that whatever they invested, they are not getting the desired or agreed upon return on this. So in that context, ADB is making inroads, and ADB, Asian Development Bank, Japan is the largest shareholder in the ADB, and the president of ADB is from Japan. So that we can see that indirectly the Japan is making inroads and replacing China, because, and that is with the consent of China, because they want this project to go ahead, but they don't want to take the risk alone. They just want to spread the risk, and they want to share the risk. So I think the biggest opportunities is that in Balochistan there are huge reserves of mineral resources, and there's called this Titanian belt, which has huge reserves of gold and copper, and Reykjavik is just small portion of it. So if it can be explored in the long run, it can result in a lot of foreign exchange revenue for Pakistan, and it can ideally it can be used to write off all the debt of Pakistan. And but it's a long-term project. Pakistan doesn't at the moment have the resources to explore and to extract these mineral resources. So bringing in all these foreign partners, Canada, and now with ADB and everyone else, it's like a good starting point. Like if this project succeeds, and if all these partners, all these lenders, if they get a good return on their investment on their loans, then they will make further loans, then they will make further investment, then Pakistan can take advantage of these resources in due course of time. Secondly, as we saw during the meeting of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir with President Trump, they showed the Trump the minerals which are from Balochistan. So that is also one way to get geopolitical leverage and support for Pakistan vis-a-vis India and everything else. So again, at the cornerstone are the same mineral resources of mainly from Balochistan and some maybe from the former tribal regions. And the challenge, so one of the major challenges that even in terms of economy, if we say that selling resources is not a sustainable way to develop your economy. So the resources will last, the resources will end. So it can only give you a kick, it can only give you a push of some time, but that cannot be like a very long-lasting strategy. So that needs to be taken into the account, number one. Number two is that the elephant in the room is now a medium-level insurgency in Balochistan, which is very active. And in the presence of that insurgency, it would be very difficult to operate all these mining projects and extract goods and take it to the port in Karachi, because now there are attacks on these trucks which are transporting the material from Sandak, another Chinese controlled project in the Chari district of Balochistan. There are attacks on such vehicles on almost on daily basis. So because the territory is huge, the roads are very long, so it's very difficult to secure all these projects. So that's why it would be a major challenge to provide security to the entire network. And because the insurgency in Balochistan itself, it is very complicated. There is a foreign angle. There is definitely a involvement of foreign hostile actors, but primarily the roots are local, and until and unless those roots are not addressed, this issue cannot be resolved. So I think that's the major challenge. And earlier this year there was this Pakistan's Mineral Investment Forum, which was organized here to pitch these minerals for foreign investment, and the government told all the potential investors, like, these are the minerals, you can get it, but there was no mention whatsoever about security situation in Balochistan. So that cannot be ignored. I think that need to be dealt with in a sustainable way to make good use of these minerals. I think, in my opinion, this is not going to complement Chinese investment. If we just take the example of Reykjavik, so the country head of Reykjavik earlier this year said that we will be using the Port Qasim in Karachi to transport the minerals extracted from Reykjavik, not the Gwadar port. So the Gwadar port, which was like built by Chinese under CPEC, which will not be utilized under this project. So China or the CPEC projects are not getting any benefit due to these. And the only thing that is happening is, like, for example, in ML1, China is using these Japan and Asia Pacific countries just to reduce its risk, just to spread its risk. And the Chinese experience, that the way they came, they invested around $25 billion in Pakistan under CPEC, and they are still not getting return on their investment. I think it's also a lesson for these Asia Pacific countries, that in the future they can also have same problems. So they will be reluctant to invest more. So that's another point that needs to be taken into account. And one more thing. So the loans provided by China under CPEC, or like the terms of all these loans, they are kept confidential, but bits and pieces of that come out to media through different ways. And the loans that, for instance, if we take the example of ML1 project, that the loan that China was providing, China would have provided for ML1 project was much cheaper than the loan that ADB will provide. So now all the loans that ADB and World Bank provide will be on commercial market interest rates, and the Chinese were still relatively concessional interest rate, like there is 4 to 5%, because they're, for ADB it's just like a commercial deal. They're using the same rates. It was like old LIBOR plus something rate, but China was still giving a concessional rate for this. So that's a major problem, and it is because China was like the rates were reduced in case of China because of geopolitical reasons. China was like giving a favor to Pakistan by reducing those rates, which is not the case in ADB. For ADB, it's just like a commercial deal. They just want to make money out of the money that they are spending. So that's something that needs to be understood. And again, moving on to the insurgency of Balochistan. So there is a thinking within the government, within the power corridors, that by bringing in Western countries, especially US, will somehow help in stabilizing Balochistan. They say that it will deter the hostile elements who are like stirring trouble in Balochistan, that it will stop. And another example which the government they think that is their success is that recently the US State Department included Wajid Brigade in the FTO designation of BLA, which was already designated as a foreign terrorist organization in 2019, but now they also included Wajid Brigade. So it's a symbolic victory, but it in practical term it does not make much of a difference, because these organizations they don't use formal or channels which can be like affected by such sanctions or such designations. But still, I think there is this hope that with the presence of Canada and with US, that Pakistan will be able to get some geopolitical leverage or support to prevent hostile countries from further interfering in Balochistan. I mean, there is a hope. We don't know how much that can materialize, but there is a hope. And then if we talk about, again the same thing is that, for instance, there is this Sandak project, Sandak Metals project in Balochistan. So China is a Chinese company, MRDL is operating it for like since 2002. And what they do is that the local people are really not happy with them. They don't invest anything on corporate social responsibility. They have very dubious practices. They are involved in under invoicing, and they export the raw materials, not the finished product. There is under invoicing, and they pay very little royalties or payment to the government of Balochistan and government of Pakistan, with the collusion of the local people who are running the project. So it's a very dubious project. It's not a good example of how a mega project, a mega mineral project should be run. So based on those experiences, the local people are skeptical that even if US or Canadian companies are coming here and operating here, and so if we are not going to benefit from them, then there is no use for it. So that ultimately creates a resentment, and that resentment ultimately helps the insurgency. So now the Reykjavik, because they are a Canadian company, so now they realize this, and they are working on corporate social responsibility. They are doing PR campaigns. They are selecting the locals and sending them to for education abroad and funding their education. So they know these things, because there's a difference between Chinese way of doing business and Canadian or Western way of doing business. So they are trying to clear this image, but still there is this local perception. And in case of Reykjavik, there is another major issue that in the Reykjavik region in Chagi district, it's like there is huge scarcity of water. There's very little water to drink, and they because the aqueduct is a huge setup, it requires extraction of a lot of water. So they have like with the geographers, they have selected a specific point where there's some little water, and they are tapping it, and they will extract water from it. And the local fears that even if that aquifer is targeted, then there will be no water left for us. So it's a very major issue for the local people. It's not like commonly known or it's widely reported, but it's still there. And there's a water scarcity is a very huge issue. Even I remember, like maybe like 20 to 25 years in that part of in Saptan district, railway trains used to carry water from Quetta to there because there was such shortage. So that's also something that needs to be taken into account in the long run, that if we are bringing in a lot of companies and they are setting up shop there to extract minerals, so they can bring everything, but there is no water. So that's also something that needs to be taken into account. And the first will be that it will affect the small local population who are living there, that their source of water will be affected. But then how, like, all these major setups can survive there without water? So but the same is the situation in Gavadar, but in Gavadar there is a sea and desalination plants can be used to get water, but nothing here. So I think these are some of the issues which are not widely known when we talk about this entire minerals in the context of Balochistan. So in conclusion, I think all these steps taken by the government to encourage foreign investors to come and invest in Balochistan, I think these are really nice. These are really appreciable steps, and they should be supported. But what needs to be taken into account is that selling minerals is not a sustainable strategy for economic development. I think this cannot continue forever. That's number one. Number two, the local people who have all the grievances that they have, all the resentment that they have, that needs to be dealt with to bring a sustainable end to the insurgency or to their resentments and to their grievances. Because without that, it's really difficult to protect any mega project in Balochistan because of the huge territory that's there, and it's not physically possible to protect it or to guard it. And lastly, I think what the government authorities in Pakistan need to revisit, like what they did, their actions, which even forced a country like China to back out from investing further in Pakistan, which was providing concessional loans, which was providing you can say easy money. So if a friendly country like China backed out, then what can we expect from ADB or Japan or other Asia Pacific countries? Because they are purely in for the money. And if they also do not get a return for their money, then they don't have the same risk appetite as China is. So I think these are some of the matters of concern for the government, which they should need to take into the account. So when the CPEC project started in 2015, there was this understanding that these are starting with the consent of US, because at that time US or West was not willing to invest in Pakistan, and China was it. And even like US was said, okay, we don't want Pakistan to remain destabilized, so it's okay for China to invest. And even now, China, they don't have any major concern of US or Japan or any other countries investing. In fact, they are encouraging ADB to come and share the risk in ML1. So for China at the moment, they don't have any. I think they don't have any major problem if US or other companies come and invest in Balochistan or in Pakistan. But what they want is that their own interests are not affected by it. For example, if they are the ones who are running the Gavadar port, they would not like somebody else to share it. So as long as their interests are protected, I think they are okay with involvement of other countries. US was okay with what China was doing back in 2015. And now I think China doesn't have any problem, at least that I know of. Yeah, there are actually scores of things that have happened. So first is that Chinese, they did not get their return on money, as I gave the example of the power projects. So not only is Pakistan not paying them on time, Pakistan wants them to waive off the late payment surcharges, and Pakistan wants China to agree to lesser payment. So for a country like China, which like does business all over the world, which is like a multi-trillion-dollar economy, like they like there is a certain standards of business that they would like to operate on. So if they have agreed with Pakistan or something, they might allow Pakistan not to pay for certain period, but that has to be paid. Which Pakistan has violated all sorts of agreements, all sorts of time periods, and are not paying. So that was one. Number two was again the security situation, as you better know. Like more than 21 Chinese citizens have been killed since 2021, and they are consistently under threat. And thirdly is the frustration with the bureaucratic procedure in Pakistan and things like this. For instance, if we talk about Gwadar, so even now Gwadar doesn't have a sustainable source of electricity. So there was this 300 megawatt coal power plant which was supposed to be built from 2015, and still there is no headway. Now government said we don't want to build it, and what government is saying that we will provide electricity from our own national electric grid, but there are a lot of problems. There are transmission lines. So based on what I was like talking to a person from one of the electricity companies, that the government has laid a transmission line from Khuzdar to Panjgur to Gwadar, but that is like in technical terms that is like 220 kV, but for such a long length they needed like a double that. So they have done something, but they have done it wrong. So now even if to rectify this mistake, it will a lot of time. And even now, maybe a couple of months back, there was severe shortage of water because there was no electricity to run the water pumping stations. And the Gwadar port is being run at the moment using diesel generators. So these are the problems which are related to the bureaucracy and the governance system of Pakistan, that they are really frustrated that even Pakistan is opposing those projects for reasons like that makes them very frustrated. So I think because of all these accumulation of all these issues have made them realize that even if we are going to invest like $7 billion in ML1 project, there will be delay in returns, there can be security issues, there can be bureaucratic issues. So I think all of them in total have like forced them to decide that no, we will invest, but we want others to share the risk. So we will not be the ones who are going to bear all the problems this time. Yeah, I think it is at this moment it will be difficult to say if these pledges can be materialized or not. But they have got the pledges, and I think if all these companies which are going to do due diligence, if they are going to do a due diligence purely based on financial or on economic basis, then it's unlikely that the pledges will materialize. But I think like we do have to accept that there is also a geopolitical element involved in this, and that will make them to just ignore the financial and economic case, which is often the case even with IMF, that at the end of the day, it's still like a foreign policy tool for the West. So, even if there is not a case, there is not an economic or financial case for these pledges to be materialized, given enough geopolitical push, I think Pakistan can get those pledges. Well, I think it's a strategic choice. Like they have already declared war against China, and China is against them. So they don't want to make enemies against Canada or the West. So it doesn't make sense for them because they hope that they will get support from the West. There are a lot of Baloch dissidents who are living in Canada, who are on asylum there. So it doesn't make sense for them to alienate Canada as well. But I remember watching videos of these Baloch insurgents. They have also threatened recording, in which they have said that if you cannot make deals with government of Pakistan without the involvement of Baloch and things like this. So they have not mounted in any attacks, but they have issued threats. And so the basic issue is that they don't want to create multiple enemies by attacking. government says that now the economy has improved, things are very good, and even these MNCs that are leaving. So the official reason that they give is that we are restructuring. It's a part of our global restructuring. We are not leaving Pakistan because of the economic issues or business problems here. So because I also report on these issues, so in all these cases there is some sort of business restructuring. There is definitely a frustration with the economy in Pakistan, but the official reason is the global restructuring and things like this. So definitely there are a lot of flaws in the business system, in economic system, the judicial system. So that in Pakistan there is a lot of trouble, a lot of problem, and it's very difficult even for a local person to start a business. What can we say about a foreign investor? But when it comes to pledges like this or investment like this, I think these are not just private investments, retail investments are coming. Those are coming. These are, we can see, G to G, government to government, or government to between a multilateral institution. So that comes with certain guarantees and that comes with certain procedures. So I think those will not be affected. And as I was already responding to another question, even if there is not an economic case for due diligence because of geopolitical reasons, I think they will ignore all these business related problems in Pakistan. उसमें तो जो BLA को तो उन्होंने 2019 में डेजिग्नेट कर दिया, और इसका डेजिग्नेशन का कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता क्योंकि ये तो कोई एक लीगल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थोड़ी है। ये तो जो भी करते हैं वो अनऑफिशियल चैनल्स के थ्रू, इलिसिट चैनल्स के थ्रू करते हैं, तो ये मेनली एक सिंबॉलिकल एक चीज़ होती है। तो अभी क्योंकि प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप के साथ पाकिस्तान के ताल्लुकात अच्छे हो रहे हैं, तो वो छोटी-छोटी वो गिव्स एंड टेक्स होते हैं कि पाकिस्तान ने उनको एक बंदा हैंड ओवर किया जो कि वहाँ पे जो काबुल एयरपोर्ट अटैक में मुलविस था, तो उन्होंने उसके बदले में ये कर दिया। तो आई थिंक दीज आर लिटिल सिंबॉलिक स्टेप्स, और इससे जो है ना ये नहीं होता, साबित नहीं होता कि वो यूएस है वो एक्टिवली अगेंस्ट है BLA के। और अभी पिछले दिनों एक जो यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल की 1267 कमेटी है फॉर दाइश एंड ISIL की, तो उसमें पाकिस्तान और चाइना दोनों पुश कर रहे थे कि मजीद ब्रिगेड को भी उसमें डाल दें, लेकिन वो नहीं हो सका। उन्होंने वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज ने उसको अपोज किया कि although BLA is a terrorist organization, but it's not related to Daesh or Al-Qaeda, so वो चीज़ नहीं हो सकी। So I think these are more of the symbolic step, और इसका FTO का डेजिग्नेशन का ये मतलब बिल्कुल भी नहीं है कि जो US है वो एक्टिवली अगेंस्ट हो गई है BLA के, वो उसको सपोर्ट भी नहीं कर रही, लेकिन बिल्कुल ही एक्टिवली अगेंस्ट हो गई है, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है। तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल से वो अफगानिस्तान में भी बेस की बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन वो भी तालिबान ने भी स्ट्रिक्टली कहा है कि हम नहीं दे सकते हो। तो वो फिर उसमें जो देखने की ज़रूरत है कि जो ट्रम्प इज़ काफ़ी अनप्रेडिक्टेबल है ना, वो कोई बात कह देता है तो उसमें उसके पीछे वो कोई बड़ी थिंकिंग नहीं होती, उसके पीछे कोई बड़ी वो कोई पॉलिसी डिसीजन नहीं होता, वो एक बस स्पर ऑफ द मोमेंट कोई बात हो जाती है, इम्पल्सिव डिसीजन होता है। तो जो ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के जितने भी डिसीजंस हैं हमें उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देखना चाहिए, और जितने भी मुख्तलिफ जो हमारे जर्नलिस्ट हैं वो कवर करते हैं इस इशू को, वो कहते हैं कि जो ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, ट्रम्प वाइट हाउस है, इट्स लेस लाइक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एंड मोर लाइक अ रॉयल कोर्ट। बस वो एक किंग है और उसके आसपास के लोग जिस तरह से मशवरा देते हैं तो वैसे ही चलते हैं। तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि ये डीप काउंटर टेररिज्म कॉपरेशन है, एटलीस्ट इन द केस ऑफ बलूचिस्तान। मे बी टिल जो दाइश के केस में, IS के केस में ये हो सकता है, बट US इज लाइक नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन स्पेसिफिकली डीलिंग विद द इशू ऑफ BLA।